Okay, so we are on to a new chapter, artificially divided by the Christians chapter in Mishlei. And I think the next couple thingies are going to be clusters of pesukim. Okay, can you please pass me an island roofing or the box? All right, so Kiseshev Lilchom es Moshel, Bin Tavin es Asher Lefnacha. V'samta sakim below echa im ba'al nefeshata. Al tis'av lemat amosav v'hu lechem k'zavim. Okay, so just a preface here. You can read the next four pesukim, five pesukim, the next five pesukim as being connected to this, but I'm not going to. I think we're going to take these three, see what it is, and then take the next three, and then we can always connect them. I wanted to take it in the most manageable, clear chunk possible. Okay, so anyone want to translate it here?
What person sits to
Kiseshev, not a person.
To sit and drink.
Teshev, not yeshiv.
sat.
What does the tough in front of a verb make it into?
Future.
It is future. Is it first person, second person, third person, singular, plural?
You.
Yes. When you sit, okay, good. When you sit, lilchom. So lilchom is a funny word. Comes from lechem.
To bread.
To bread, yeah. But what do you think it means, though?
You either eat bread or bake bread.
To eat bread. Okay, right. So what?
To make bread.
Not to make bread, to break bread. Okay, to break bread, right? Or to eat. I mean, to eat bread, whatever. Okay. Es moshel. Now here, es means with a moshel. Does not mean an allegory. Wow, the translation gears are broken today. Atam moshel bagoyim.
Ruler.
What? Leader. Ruler. Ezuhu Gibor Kovish Zistro Shnemar Tov Erchai Mi Gibor Umosha Brucha Milochet Ir. Yeah, okay. When you sit to break bread with a ruler, Bin Tavin Es Asher Lefnacha.
You should surely build what's before you.
Build what's before you?
No, okay. Yeah, translation gives are really broken today.
You know, I got to show the the what do you call? I'm reminded of this. How do you spell croissant? Oh, yeah. The this reminds me of, okay, let me actually, I was actually going to say this. This is a side point. Okay. I was going to say this in terms of like people who are trying to work on their reading skills. That I feel like, and this is not having to do with Mishlei, but it's just something that I have no other place to say this. Okay. So I'll say this here is that, that there are two types of people who, what is the, Arba midos patalmidim, right? So there are two midos in people who are learning to translate. Okay, there are people who will. Actually, I'll show you the cartoon first. Okay, so this is from Poorly Drawn Lines, which I think tomorrow's going to introduce me to this. So the bear says, "Do you want a croissant?" The bird says, "A what?" The bear says, "You don't know what a croissant is?" The bird says, "It's a sort of Italian village." The bear says, "I'm not offering an Italian village." Okay, so that's one, and then the other one I saw was. Nope, that's not it. No, hold on. Where did I put it? I put it in my photos. Did I put it in psychology photos? Psychology memes? I don't think it is a psychology meme. No, I put it in 2000. Where is it? Oh, this. This is one of those like poorly translated English things. By a man eat fish, he day teach fish man to a lifetime. Like clearly this is someone trying to translate the by a man, so now there's two midos in people who translate. Okay, there are people who, and I'm not saying this in a condemnatory way, I'm just saying this in a like diagnostic way. There are people who will translate each word and then like the part of their mind that asks, does this have meaning, is just shut off while they're translating. Like, and I've seen this when, because we always start off initially with asking people to translate, and it's like a person will say, buy a man fish, he day. And they'll like, look to me as if, is this correct? And I'll be like, are you listening to yourself? It's like, maybe you got the words correct, but like there, or in the case of the Italian village, like the bird, the bird thinks to himself, maybe croissant means an Italian village, but just doesn't really like put it into the context, So the key, and then that's one type of translator. The other type of translator somehow manages, and I don't know what determines this. I don't know if this is a skill or like just a way that the mind works, but that you are engaging in a simultaneous like test, recalling what you think the word means and testing out how it fits in syntax, and recalling what it means and testing out in syntax, so that when you're like, before you say what you think it means, you process like, does this statement that I say have meaning, And it was always a trick in like teaching in high school when teaching people to translate, like to try to get them over that hump, And I find that that's going to be the key thing in terms of when you are like learning how to read and translate, whether it's Hebrew or Aramaic. Like once you get over that hump, worlds are going to open to you, And some people somehow, based on the way their brain is wired, I guess, like have that to start off with. But it's similar to like as an English teacher, I find people who write sentences, and I'll ask them, have you just tried reading the sentence out loud? And like to me, when I read, it's like reading something out loud, but for some people, it's like writing is one process in their mind and reading is another process. And they could write sentences that absolutely make no sense. And until they read it out loud, they don't notice it, So I think like, I'm not saying that based on the way you translate, Bill. I was commenting on like the troubles people are having for, what do you call it, for like translation today,
I don't know if you heard my tone of voice. It was skeptical.
Yeah, skeptical, right? Yeah. And the other thing also, sometimes the remedy to this is you lose sight of the forest for the trees, right? That you are so focused on the individual words that you don't set up a sentence to put the words into, like to make meaning out of it, so like you could get so caught up in the individual things that you just forget what you were talking about at the beginning of the sentence.
I just want to say, I feel like this could be discouraging to someone to like wanting to like try to do the translating. And I just want to say, like, for me, I found that I think like 2 years ago, I was like, I did the translating almost every day. It helped my skills so much. I also see like like where I was getting like the nuances of wrong, like where I translated "teishi" as like in the incorrect tense, and then they
like, exactly. And the only way to do it is to try and to make mistakes and then to learn, and then you pick up stuff, and then also to note why you got it wrong, right? So for example, tav at the beginning of a verb almost always means you. Right, that's how you say "you" in Hebrew, is you have the tav at the beginning of the verb, right? So like you note that, and then also like just to point out with that mistake, that first mistake is, I think it is very common when people say "when sit," not realizing even that it's a verb, that has to be. There's no sitting, doesn't just happen popping out of the air. It's either when I sit, when you sit, when he sits, when she sits, when we sit, when they sit. So like the more you go over these things, then the more they'll become like second nature. Okay. So kiseshiv lilchum es moshel bin tavin. So it doesn't mean to build, and understand. You should surely understand. And just so you know, bet yud nun is understand as a shoresh, and bet nun hey is build. And so it is sometimes difficult to know which one's which. Es asher that which is before you. Okay. I should put numbers here. Visamta sakin biloecha.
Well, just on the being something, what is that? Because they're both understand?
So double lashon in Hebrew is emphasis. So surely understand or understand thoroughly. Okay, so the samta, you should place.
Is sakin with a sin the same as with a?
Yes. So it's the same thing. A knife. Below acha, so we have to look at below acha here. Oh, sorry. Look at this. Mitzvah answers your question. So that's another thing also that sometimes is confusing in biblical Hebrew, that the sins in samech switch. Okay, below acha is inyan belia. What does bolea mean?
Swallow.
To swallow. Right. Okay, so put a knife to your throat. Okay, literally your swallower, right? To your throat, but we'll say your throat. Im ba'al nefesh ata.
If you are in ba'al nefesh.
What would be the literal translation of ba'al nefesh?
Living
Nefesh.
human.
Say again.
Possessor.
Living human.
That could be a meaning. What does ball
I
literally
think
mean?
so.
Owner or possessor.
Yeah, master, right? It means master. Secondarily, it means owner, right? Master of your soul, okay? Of soul, master of soul, okay? Whatever that is, okay? That clearly needs to be explained. Al titav lamat amosav hu lechem kazabim.
Don't desire.
Mat mosav, matamim. It's in Zmiros.
The appetizers.
Yeah. Don't desire his sweet things, sweet delicacies. I think that's a good one. Yeah, his delicacies. V'hu lechem kazavim.
And either I'm assuming it's the delicacies.
Yeah,
Are the bread of
kazav.
lies.
Yeah. Bread
deceivers.
of falsehoods. Okay, it is bread of falsehoods. Okay, so that's why it's all together. Okay, so when you sit to break bread with a ruler, you should surely understand that which is before you. You should place a knife to your throat if you are a master of soul. Don't desire his delicacies, it is the bread of falsehoods. Okay, that's how we're translating it. Let's see what else is added here. So Mitzias Tzion says, Lamata Mosav Devarim Mutamim, delectable things, Mushubachim, and high quality things. That's what Yitzchak asked Yaakov for, right? Make me delicacies. All right, that's Mitzias Tzion. That's the other thing also, side advertisement about translating is the more you do Shnayim Mikra and understand what you're doing, the more you're going to associate the words to specific pesukim that come up. And then that'll help create these networks in your mind, like, I don't know if you know, I'm doing it without thinking, but like when we're reading through this, I automatically just associate to a bunch of pesukim, and so the more you do that, then that's another benefit of Shnayim Mikra. It's not just the chiyuv. Yeah.
I highly recommend this.
Yes. Yeah, that is I'll show it on the thing. One of the best Shnayim Mikra vehicles is Orach Yamim, which takes the onkelos, and wherever the onkelos makes a different a deviation from the literal translation, it'll translate the onkelos back into Hebrew. And if you say, well, I don't know Hebrew either, now you'll learn both of them. So you read it, and then whenever he deviates, then you go down there.
It also has the onkelos lined up with the Hebrew, so you can see.
Right, so you can see it. And people say that they use English onkelos, which it can be helpful. But the other thing also is this way, if you do this, you learn. See, if you do the English onkelos, you're translating English and you're getting an English Aramaic bridge, right? But if you do this, you get English Aramaic Hebrew bridge. You see what Aramaic corresponds to the Hebrew and what Hebrew corresponds to the Aramaic and what English corresponds to both of them. So it's just like it's a much tighter process. But yeah. Okay. Thank you. All right. Sadigon says the kasher teshiv b'sudas hamelech. Okay, when you sit at a meal of a king. Havin es understand what's before you. Okay, that's similar enough that I'm not going to write it. The sim sakin begronecha, put a knife to your throat. Im ata bal taiva. Okay, if you were a master of desire. Okay, that's what Zadigon says. Bal taiva, and then don't desire his delicacies. Kihu lechem lo timidi. Actually, I'm going to put this here. Okay, so he said. So Zadigon translates. What was the first thing he did? Bal nefesh. Bal nefesh equals an appetitive person. Okay. And then he translates lechem kizavim as non-constant bread. Okay, right? It's not tamid. It's not there. It's not lechem tamid, right? It's not there constantly. Okay. Or perpetually. Okay. Oof. Do I have the stomach for this today? In yesivta lemechal im shalite esbayan kamo rashain kadamaich. I got to say another thing. Okay, I guess we're on translation tip modes. If you think, and everyone has to hear this once. Okay, like once you hear it, you might have heard this, right? Anyone who thinks, if I do Shnayim Mikra, that'll help me in Gemara, no. Right, because Shnayim Mikra is a completely onkelos Aramaic is a completely different dialect of Aramaic than Bavli Aramaic. Okay, so I won't say it won't help you at all, but like the word in is still going to be there, but like yas is not a thing, or even whatever. There's different words. So if you sit Actually, this is not in. Yes. In yisivta lemechal im shalite es bayan kmo rashaim kadamach. Rishim kadamach. Usasim sakina beloach. In mara denafshahat. Okay, so that second one's the literal translation. Lotis ragig levishuloi. Don't desire. That's where we have the word esrog comes from the word desire, right? Trog. Levishuloi. Don't desire his cooked dishes. Vihinun mechulta dechad davusa. So the only thing I don't know is rishim. I just want to look that up, and then we'll get on our way. Everything else is what do you call it? Straight translation. Rishim. Rishim. Pass one of those, please. Rishim is. Oh, you know what it might be? No. Yeah. That's Rasham. I don't know if that's
on the right column.
On the right. Oh, Rasham. Mark or draw. Yeah, not sure. All right, so we're going to ignore that for now. Okay, questions. Oh, sorry, not yet. Our scroll. When you sit down to dine with a ruler, know well what lies before you and put a knife to your throat if you are master of, and then they put your soul there. I think that's a fair thing. Master of your, but I'm putting it in brackets because it's not certain. Do not lust for his delicacies. I like lust better than desire, right? Because tava is lust. Don't lust for his delicacies. Lust for his delicacies. For it is deceitful bread. Okay, Living Knox says, when you sit down to dine with a ruler, understand well who is before you. Interesting. Is that? Es asher lefanaka. Yeah. So you should understand. I'll say who or what. Who or what is before you. If you have a large appetite, so they were going to the side to go on, stick a knife in your throat. Okay. That's interesting. To or in your throat, right? Because bid means in or to or at or over or around or with, right? Bet can mean anything you want. That's the rule for bet. Do not crave his delicacies, for it is food of falsehood. Okay, so they take bread. Lechem sometimes means food, and bread sometimes means food. Like no sin lechem l'chol basar. God doesn't give bread to every creature. You shouldn't even give bread to birds because it's bad for them. When you sit to break bread with a ruler, understand well what is before you and put a knife to your gullet. I like gullet. If you are a gluttonous man, do not crave his delicacies. So he's also taking like side to go on. Do not crave his delicacies when they are bread of lies. So he makes it into a condition. When it is a bread of I'll say lies. Yeah, oops, sorry, lies. Yeah, lies is more accurate because the difference between sheker and kazav. Sheker is false, kazav is lying. Okay, and the difference between lying and falsehood is falsehood means that the statement doesn't correspond with reality. Lie means that it doesn't correspond with what you actually think or feel. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So that is Alter and that is Living Knock. And now we're up to our questions at the 48 time. Yeah. Ariel.
Yeah. Hi. Yeah, I have a question. Are we, it sounds like according to Rasadi that if you're a man of taiva, that's like not a good thing, right?
Say it again, that if you have an amount of taiva, then it's not a good thing?
Yeah, I mean, if you're a man of taiva, it sounds like it's not necessarily a good thing.
Correct. Yeah.
Right. So so my question is, a guy like that, what does it mean that you should know who your king is before you? Like who? Like, do you have to know if he's a just king or a guy or like a righteous king? Like, how does a guy like that? How do you protect a guy like that who is a Baal Taiva in this specific scenario?
So what's interesting here, I'm going to reverse engineer this. So usually we have to ask the question, who is the audience? It's really interesting. He spells out who the audience is, right? That this is just at the Baal Nefesh. Now we need to know who the Baal Nefesh is, right? And he's giving him a preemptive strategy for controlling his taiva, right? He's saying when you sit down, then put a knife to your throat. Okay, whatever that means. But in other words, like and know that this is lechem kazavim. Okay, so in other words, it sounds like the only way that this Baal taiva can can prevent himself from making whatever mistake he's going to make is if he takes these two things to mind as he goes into the situation, right? So I'm not answering your question, but I'm saying that he's reading the pasuk, or the pasuk itself reads as an answer to your question. Like, what is a guy like this supposed to do? It's telling you what you're supposed to do. So this pasuk is telling you the answer to your question. I mean, that's what we need to figure out. That's the answer. Okay.
Yeah, that is kind of my question.
Okay, and then the question to extract from what you said, which you also kind of said at a point, is what is the scenario here? Okay, so who is this Moshel? Okay, does it matter what kind of person he is? Okay, yeah. Okay, Sean.
Just methodologically.
Yeah.
It seems like you could also extrapolate that this is just this type of person, so it doesn't necessarily need to be talking to the Baal Nefesh. Could it be talking to like anybody, and it's saying, if you're the Baal Nefesh, do this, and then from that you can extrapolate out other people?
It's possible that we could extrapolate other things, but because he does seem to be specifying, like, this advice is for. Oh, sorry. No, you're right.
Unless your delicacy
Yeah.
independent from.
Okay, well, I was gonna say it the other way. First puzzle might be independent from the Baal Nefesh. In other words, when you sit down to deal with a ruler, whoever you are, you have to understand what's before you.
Yeah.
And then if you are a Baal Nefesh, then put a knife to your throat. And then 3 could either be an extension of 2, or it could be going back to 1.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a good point. That's a good point. Yeah. So who are the audiences? Okay, right. In other words, who is being addressed in pasuk Aleph? Okay, who is the Baal Nefesh who receives the additional strategy in pasuk Bet? Which, by the way, you could also read it that this goes on both of them. Okay, but yeah. In pasuk, okay, let's put this. Who's being addressed in pasuk Aleph? If that is a different person than in pasuk Bet. Okay. Who is the Baal Nefesh who receives the additional strategy in pasuk Bet? And then who is pasuk Gimel for? Yeah. Okay, that's good call. Yeah, Ezra.
What's the metaphor of putting a knife to your throat?
Yeah. What does it mean to put a knife to your throat or in your throat? Like, we're presuming that this is a metaphor, right? Right.
I feel like it's not going to be a good strategy to literally put a knife to your throat when you're with the ruler. The ruler's going to be like,
what are you doing? Yeah. One move and this guy gets it. Yeah. Isaac.
What is the person understanding?
Yeah.
Is it understanding what is being said in these pesukim? Is it or is he understanding something else?
Right. What are you being told to understand? What is stated in pesukim 2 through 3, or something else prior to that? Yeah, Yoshua? Meaning it's telling you, yeah, I guess that's a little unclear. What I meant was it's telling you understand something, and then here's a bunch of other stuff. Yeah.
Isn't it obvious, like, don't lust for his delicacies when it is the bread of lies? Or why is something?
Okay, so let's translate that into what is the Hava Amina of pasuk Gimel. Okay, so in other words, why might we? So in other words, I think what it's saying, since the maskana is it's lechem kazavim, the Hava Amina is you might think that this is not lechem kazavim, right? So why might we think this is not lechem kazavim? Yeah, David.
About that.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Even if you go with the curse of or the reading of when it's bread of life, it's still the person would think it's not bread of life at all. And there's certain situations where it is, and you have to be aware of it.
Mm-hmm,
right? So
yeah, David.
Okay. On number 5, what is Halamina pasuk Gimel?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Then also to Ezra's question about putting the knife to your throat. Why the lashon of Vilamecha, right, instead of just like your garon? Why the lashon of your swallower?
Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna delete it. Yeah. So why call it below echa, right? And in fact, I think, okay, I'm gonna make a guess here. This is a total guess. I think Shlomo loves the word garon. No, he loves the word gargarosecha. Yeah, he has a lot of words for throat in Mishlei, but it's not garon. Never mind.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's a good question. Yeah.
And then the kite shiur moshel.
Yeah.
Is this saying if you're going to be doing this, this is what you should know, or this is an overall suggestion? This is a good thing to be doing.
It seems to be saying when you do this.
So not necessarily suggesting you go eat with the ruler, but if you're going to.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, correct. And by the way, just to connect this to yesterday really quickly, in yesterday's pesukim or pasuk? Pasuk. We talked about malachim, kings, and we said it's either kings or rich people, right? And you might think that this pasuk here indicates that it's talking about that the previous one was talking about kings, because this is talking about a ruler, right? But how would you respond to that? That it's not such a clear-cut proof.
Malachim is in some versions.
Right, but I'm saying like how could you? Let's say I wanted to bring this as a proof that the previous one was referring to kings,
You're meeting
and then let's say you didn't have Mefarshim, right? What?
meeting with these people to break bread with them.
Yeah, but you do that with kings sometimes,
Oh, okay.
right?
Oh, yes, of course.
So I think you could say that even if this is talking about kings, it is talking about kings in the capacity of their wealth, right? Like it's not talking about kings who are like, like the emphasis is like you're being entrapped by all these delicacies. Or you could say that rich people are moshalim also, right? Rich people are rulers, right? I mean, that's so in other words, it's not a definitive proof. That's all I wanted to say. And the next pesukim, the next 5 pesukim talk about specifically a wealthy person. Okay, when you sit with a wealthy person. So if anything, I think that is why a lot of the Mefarshim went to wealthy for the previous pasuk. Yeah. Yeah, Yoshua?
Yeah, and if we're connecting to pesukim, then is it only when you're sitting with the ruler that you shouldn't lust for delicacies of whatever this type is, the bread of lies? As in, shouldn't you never lust for?
Okay, that's a good question. Okay, so so I'm gonna tack that onto the first question, which is like, is this advice, is this strategy, I guess, confined to this specific scenario, or can you extrapolate it else in other ways? Okay, for example, maybe even not with a ruler, right? Maybe lusting for delicacies is always bad. Yeah, let's go Chaim and then Ariel and then Sean.
Yeah, what are bread of lies?
Yes.
And are they, I mean, this is kind of similar to what the last question was saying, but are they specific to these kind of people?
Okay, what does Lechem Chazavim mean? I'm gonna put here also, how are the matamim of this moshel considered lechem kazavim? And then you said like, does that extend to other?
Yeah, it was specific. I guess it was specifically like what does this have to do with the rich type?
Yeah. Okay. Good. So yeah, I think we've covered that through these two. Yeah. Ariel.
Yeah, I don't know if we asked this, but doesn't it? I mean, why does it only apply to someone who's a Baal Taiva? I mean, shouldn't this also apply to like everyone? Don't you want to know who you're standing before or breaking bread with in general?
Right. So so I think that is also going to be covered in 3 and 1, meaning what if you learn that this is all for the Baal Nefesh, so why is this all for the Baal Nefesh? You know, shouldn't apply elsewhere, or you can ask the same question from the advice itself. Don't lust for false bread. It sounds like that should apply to everyone, right? So yeah. Sean?
Yeah, it seems like there's also a Havamina of the first part of the puzzle.
Okay, good.
So
Yeah.
why would you not know who you're sitting in?
Yeah, okay, good. Right. So what is the Hav Amina? Wait, no, let's put that over here. What is the Hava Amina of bin Tavin? Right? Like why would a person not do this? Yeah. Right. So yeah, so presumably it's going to be either he doesn't see the need to understand, or he thinks he already does understand.
Why the emphasis?
Right.
Yeah, I was wondering.
Yeah. I'll put that here also. And also why the emphasis? Why the emphasis? Emphasis. Yeah.
Yeah, also, if we're translating it as who or what.
Yeah.
So it could either be the person. Or
Yeah.
it could be the delicacies. So is it the person?
Yeah,
or the
what
delicacies?
/ who are you being told to understand? Yeah, okay, good. Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, you could read it both ways, right? Because the pesukim 2 and 3 are talking, well, I guess not 2, but 3 is talking about the delicacies, but it's his delicacies. So, or maybe it's both, right? Maybe it's him and the food. Okay, I'm assuming Ariel's hand up is from the previous one. Yeah, okay. Any other questions?
Give me a second.
I was talking already.
Yeah,
The who in the last concept,
yeah,
is it saying like therefore or
yeah.
or like,
I think I get the sense that it's saying either when or because.
okay, yeah.
Yeah. Because therefore, I don't think really.
No, I meant like backwards therefore, so because.
Yeah, because yeah, backwards therefore, yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I thought we were ready for it.
Okay. I feel like you have another question.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, really. It's kind of strange that like we switch up the like the subject, like the food subject from just like I don't know if real home literally means to like just bread, and then we go into like this like delicacies and fancy kind of bad
Yeah.
bread. So I don't know if like that's like a really a question of like why I'm picking that up. Meaning, is there any other way to say like eating with or breaking bread?
Yeah, I mean, are you I think I think I think it actually makes more sense because we're talking about mata mosav. I mean, you can say break bread, it means to eat food, right?
Yeah.
To eat, let's just say to eat with a ruler. Okay. Yeah. I think it just makes it it is false food. Right, or food of falsehood, right? False food or food of falsehood. Food of lies, yeah. Yeah. Be a good name for a recipe book that just has all incorrect recipes. Yeah. Yeah.
So since we switched the understanding to who or what,
Yeah.
did we ask this already? But does that mean that could this entire thing be talking about the food and not the guy?
Well, it seems like the scenario at the very least is going to be dependent on the guy, and it does seem to be his delicacies. Now you can say it really means any delicacies, and like this is a scenario where it will commonly come up. But like, I do think there's going to be like a judgment you have to make. How much is this about? Is this specific to the food? And like this, just the guy is just the circumstance in which you have the food. How much of this is about the guy, and like the food is just like the trap? And how much of this is about like eating delicacy food with the ruler? Yeah. Sean?
Yeah, I don't think we explicitly asked what it means to be bal nefesh.
Yeah. Let's see.
Bal taiva,
Right.
but it's also
Correct.
possible that it's somebody else.
Yes. Who is the what is meant by bal nefesh? Right. Bal nefesh, like I wouldn't have gone to bal taiva. Right. What would you have assumed? I think bal nefesh is like there's a phrase we use for bal nefesh, or like there's a typical meaning.
Well, no, bal nefesh.
I don't think we ever use. I don't think we use bal nefesh for a living. Do we use it?
Means like someone like
Bal nefesh. We usually use bal chaim, right? Bal chaim. Yeah.
bal nefesh is usually like in achronim and stuff.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, if you're bal nefesh.
Yeah. What does bal nefesh mean in achronim? What? No, that's bal basar. Yeah.
It's so hard to translate, but it means like if you're like careful.
Okay, it is careful, but it has a connotation. Yeah.
Like bal nefesh is like the master of your soul, like master of your actions, and like you perfect yourself to it.
Yeah. So it's someone who either cares about his life or cares about his soul, right? That's the like. I've seen English translations even like loosely translate as God-fearing. That's not a translation, but like means if you really are someone who cares about your soul, your life, whatever, then you'll do this. You'll do this kumrah. So that's what I would have said for bal nefesh, and it fits into the pasuk, right? Is like it's saying you should recognize that like your soul is at stake here, whatever that means. Okay, Isaac, you have an approach.
Yeah. So I think this is warning against a pitfall of that you're viewing the delicacies that a ruler serves differently from the way that he's using it.
Okay.
So I guess my example would be Haman and the part and
Oh, that's a good example. Yeah.
that
he should have done that.
yeah, that when a ruler serves someone like delicacies or like fancy foods,
Yeah,
it can be a sign of favor.
Yeah.
But it also can be like as part of some of like some sort of snare.
yeah,
And I think like you can't like look at the food and be like, oh, this is such nice food that it's like clearly I have a good like I'm in the ruler's graces.
yeah,
And so it's saying you need to be very wary of that because because it might okay. You need to be very wary of it because it could can you go back to the music? Yeah. Yes, you need to really understand what your relationship with the ruler is.
Yeah.
And therefore how to view like the delicacies that he's
yeah. Okay, good. What's the mission on Aleph I'm thinking of?
It's Bayes Gimel.
Okay, let's see.
Yeah.
Let's see if this is right. If it is, I love it. Yep, that's exactly. Where's the telepathy again? Hevu Zahirian Baroshus, be careful with politicians or with rulers. She'in Makarvin La'adam Ella L'Tzarach Atzman, they only draw a person close for their own needs. Nirin Ka'ohavim B'Shas Hana'asan, they appear to be friends at a time when it suits them. But they don't stand by a person in his time of need, right? So that's again, there's a certain false appearance to the way that a ruler or politician will approach you. And this is saying that you're going to think that he's whining, dining you for some reason, which I think we have to go into a little bit more, and saying, no, like stop. You have to understand what this is really about. I mean, you can't just take it on the surface perception, and then this is going to be the remedies. Yeah.
Yeah, like maybe he appreciates me. He's my friend.
Right.
Like,
Right. Okay. Good. So should we develop that? I think that is reasonable for the Shroud of Pasuk, right? So then, what is it saying? So who's the Baal Nefesh, or why is it calling him the Baal Nefesh? And then, what is the strategy of place a knife to your throat? And what? So lechem kozavim, I think we've explained also, right? It's false bread, right? But we need to think what the falsehood is. In other words, it's bread that is not what it seems. So what do you think it is? And then what it is really? It's whatever agenda the ruler has. That's really what it is. But what do you think it is? Like what does this Baal Nefesh think it is? What is he predisposed to think it is?
Kindness.
Yeah, like something like this person likes me, this person values me, something like that, right? Are you gonna say something? No.
I was just gonna add that, like, it kind of makes sense now why it says Baal Nefesh. I mean, going along the lines of like what Isaac was saying, because because like he can be easily deceived and fooled because he, I guess, usually deludes himself into thinking that like this will somehow benefit him, or like it will, because he's so attached to like the taiva that like he wouldn't control his desires, so like so like the king will wave that as a shiny object in front of him.
Right. Okay, I have something to elaborate on that. I'm calling you Yeshua first. Yeah.
Yeah. So wait till I can explain the allegory.
Yeah.
Either literally or non-literally. Non-literally, just need to be careful. Literally, maybe specifically in conjunction with don't lust for the delicacies.
Yeah.
If you have like a knife to your throat and like you eat delicacies, you're gonna slice your neck.
Right. Right.
So like the imagery of like.
Yeah. It's definitely powerful imagery, right? I was even wondering if it means place a knife into your gullet, meaning I thought of that as like stab your gullet, but it doesn't basically mean eat the knife. Like I don't know if that's stretching it too far, but I was thinking Sadigon's thing. Just this isn't what you have to say for Ariel, but it just Ariel made me think of it. Sadigon said it's not constant bread. So if you're a Baal Taiva and you get served this delicacy food, it will cause you to think that this is a relationship now, right? That I now have this relationship with the ruler where I'm going to be able to get this constantly, right?
Yeah, and then also now you're going to be in you're going to be dependent on the ruler to serve you more delicacies. So you're going to like be in his thrall in order to.
Yeah.
to, like,
So the thing though is interesting is and this might be a fork in the road is your example, Isaac, of Haman and this example from Sadigon seem to be taking two different directions. Like what causes you to make a mistake? Haman, it was his ego, right? Like no one, like no one, there's no one who the king and queen value more than me. And the Delicacies was just like the scenario, like it's not Haman was a competitive guy, right? But then Sadigon seems to be saying that no, it's the way, if you put these Delicacies in front of a normal person, he won't necessarily make this mistake about the ruler. I mean, maybe he'll make another mistake, like we said with Sean's question, but he's not going to think that this bread is going to be constant necessarily. I don't know, but if you, I'm trying to think of another example outside of the case of rulers, where like you are okay. Here's an example. There are, we're at the time right now of year where if this were pre-pandemic, then I'd be gearing up for open house and recruitment season for my high school, right? And one of the things that we always prided ourselves on at Shalhavet, Alav Shalom, is that our recruitment procedure was that we would encourage the students to spend a full day at the school after their orientation so they could like go to every class and like spend time with the students. And I heard, I won't name any names, I heard that other schools, what they'll do is they will just wine and dine the students and they'll like have them playing games and they'll give them all this like swag, like loot and all this other stuff, and like not actually expose them to what the school is actually like, So what happens is the kid gets this like glorious Disneyland experience and walks away with all this loot. And in their mind, it's like, this is what the high school is going to be like, Yeah. and it's really, it's false. It's a lie. It's false marketing, And so like, if the guy is a bal nefesh, in the sense of bal taiva, somehow something like that is happening with the king. Okay. I'm still not clear on what it is. Yeah.
My common example was to illustrate that the bread being bread of flies,
Yeah, correct. Right. That was bread of flies, right? Not the bal nefesh thing. Correct. Yeah. Okay. We got something. We got a delectable stew brewing here. Okay. Other moves.
I think it's going to be delectable.
I mean, I think the other thing also. I mean, it is powerful imagery, but the other thing about the throat is like you can get cut in many other places and it won't kill you, but if you get cut in your throat, it'll kill you. So it's like you have to treat this as like the modern analogy would be when you go to sit down at a meal like this, imagine a gun to your head, right? Like it has to be an extreme danger, right? Not just like, extreme and immediate danger, like one false move and boom, So I want to try to get what is that immediate danger? Because in other words, it doesn't seem like it really is immediate danger. So why is he like going up to that extreme? Yeah.
Is that going on like you should surely understand, like really like understand the setting that you're in and like who you're speaking with?
Yeah. Oh, you're saying that's why he's using the extreme thing? That could be, meaning that if I just say...
Also the double Lashon.
Yeah,
right.
I think part of it is...
Hold on, let me just express this thought and then call in Ezra also. That if, if I just, let's say you're going to go meet with some like a prominent person and I say, oh, you should be very careful. It's very easy to say like, oh yeah, I'll be careful, but I say, you got to treat it as though there's a gun to your head, and really make sure you know what you're getting yourself into. Then you're like, oh, okay, yeah, Ezra.
But what about that is so like dangerous? Like
that's what we have to understand.
Suppose you like go back again and like there's no breath. Like,
right. Yeah, that's why Sadigon to me is a little bit harder than bal nefesh being someone who's careful about his soul. Yeah.
So being back up what Yeshua said,
yeah.
I think the reason why why it's saying you need to really understand is because the ruler might be trying to get you to feel a certain way.
Yeah.
So if you're just like, oh, just understand, then you'll like go until you have a picture that makes sense, which might be the picture that the Moshe is trying to paint for you.
Yeah.
And then you'll stop there.
Yeah.
As I was saying, in this double option is you really need to investigate because there's like layers of things going on here.
Yeah. Okay, that's good. Yeah, Ariel, and then we'll stop for today, I think. You're still on mute. Yep.
Sorry, I think did Ezra just ask why we have to explain? I mean, we have to explain why it's dangerous.
Because I feel like there is a danger that the ruler is going to use you somehow, but I
Right.
don't know if that is the only danger. Like, especially we have to think back then the way that rulers were, that they kind of had absolute power. If you're talking about like a king or something, absolute power, capricious. Like we might be talking about some other danger here.
I mean, just to build off of that for a second, like, I'm just thinking about, like, I don't know, like, I see this all the time in like shows, and like, I could probably see this happening in reality also. Like, let's say it's just someone who's like in a very big position, or like, and like he dines with you or whatever. Then like then like the argument to him is like, like it's almost like you owe me one kind of thing. Like,
right, you're indebted to him.
he can, you're indebted to him, and he's gonna
Yeah.
leverage that emotion, and ultimately, like he could. I'm just creating a crazy case right now, but like he could use it as like, oh, like I'll tell everyone, that like you didn't live up to your
Right.
end or something. Like he could spin it in a way
Right,
where
right,
it could be
yeah.
harmful because you already partook in that.
Yeah, and
relationship somehow.
let me just interject, and then I'll call on David and Ezra, and then we'll stop. It could be that it's just there are many of these dangers. Like I don't think we have to pin it down to one thing. But and that could be why it's using this extreme thing, and also why it's urging you to understand. And it's answering the question, what are you supposed to understand? Well, it might differ based on different cases, but either way, it's not what it seems. In other words, the warning is the bread of falsehood, and saying you have to understand what is really going on beneath the surface here. In Haman's case, he needs to understand why suddenly is the queen inviting me to 2 meals, to 2 parties. In the case of the student at the high school, like why am I being given all this stuff? Like they didn't even ask that question. Yeah, David.
Question.
Yeah.
Is there something specific that Shlomo HaMelech is trying to hit with eating with him? Is there like certain like things that eating elicits?
That's another good question. Yeah. I'm gonna add that to why even focus on eating, as opposed to, let's say, like, again, this is typical Mishlei as opposed to Pirkei Avos. The Mishnah we read in Pirkei Avos is stated in such abstract general terms. Mishlei is dealing with a particular scenario. So is it just because it's common? Is it because it's to create like the emotional impact? Yeah, Ezra, and then we'll stop.
If this guy really has such absolute power, does it matter that he's bribing you and he just use you regardless?
Right. So apparently not. Right. Right. Apparently not. So that we'll have to factor in. Okay.
When people believe they're have a relationship with you.
Yeah, this is a good example, by the way. Like even like you could say, all right, who are the most tyrannical people in the world right now? Putin, Kim Jong-un, Xi Jinping, but they still hold elections. Why they hold elections? I mean, they're not real elections. Everyone knows that the elections are shams, right? Why? What if they're so powerful? Why don't they just? Because you have to keep up the charade, apparently, right? They can't just they have to call it the Democratic Republic of North Korea, right? People's Republic, right, or whatever they call it. It's a little silly, but apparently, even the king needs to play by a certain charade. Okay, all right. This is an easy one to think about, I think. So hopefully we'll have thoughts for tomorrow. Okay, have a good day.